when I was only 14 years old. My mother, she was going to be going through a divorce, so my dad wasn't giving her the money that he normally gave her to take me to my regular dentist to have a cavity filled. So instead, a dental clinic opened up a couple minutes away from our house. So, my mom, she didn't think anything of it. She took me there. But this dentist, oh, who knows if he even was a real licensed dentist, because I didn't recall seeing the dental diplomas up on the wall like you normally would in your, in a doctor or dentist office. So he gave me much too much, an overdose of nitrous oxide gas that cut off my oxygen supply, stopped my heart. I was dead. And I was told this when they eventually did bring me back with the CPR, that they almost gave up on CPR because they just could not get a pulse back. So during the time that CPR was being performed on me, my soul left my body and it traveled through a long, dark, speeding tunnel that seemed to go on for miles and miles at this great, really fast speed. And I believe that I knew that, that my soul left my body. My body was back in the dental chair, and it was just my soul flying through this long, dark, speeding tunnel. And finally, at the end of the tunnel, it opened up into the brightest light where my 3 guardian angels were waiting for me in the light. And they told me that they were sent to wait for me in the light and that I was safe with them in heaven. And they told me that I died at the dentist. They said I had an accident back at the dental clinic. I died and they were sent to wait for me. And then they gave me the choice of staying with them in heaven or returning to my life with an important purpose. They did say that if I chose to go back to my life, that it was going to be very challenging in exchange for being allowed to go back, but that I would be sent back with an important purpose. And, they really wanted me to stay with them in heaven because they said, if you stay here with us, you will have greater peace and happiness than you could ever imagine. I would have eternal bliss in heaven. So I kept saying, I have to go back. I have to go back. My mom really needs me because I was my mother's only daughter. I have 2 older brothers, but my mom always wanted a girl. So, she kept going until she finally got her daughter. So I just felt like, how could I leave my mother behind? I just didn't feel like she would even survive it, losing her only teenage daughter. So when I kept saying, I have to go back, I have to go back, my mom really needs me, my guardian angel they said, of course, your mom will be very upset. They said, but in time, not that she would ever get over it, but in time she would be more okay, down in time. So they said, before you make up your mind, they said, we have something that we want to show you. And all of a sudden, I'm watching my own funeral. What it would be like if I chose to stay in heaven and not return to my life. And everybody was at my funeral. My family, my friends, teachers, neighbors, and everybody was upset, but the only one who was inconsolable beyond grief-stricken was my mother. And my mom, it was a closed casket, but she kept throwing herself on top of my casket, screaming, crying, begging, pleading, Elissa, Elissa, my baby, don't leave me, Elissa, I love you, come back to me. So I said to my guardian angel, see, my mom really needs me. And then there was this big white door. And my guardian angel said, once you pass through this door, there is no turning back. Then you have to stay. They said, you will be so amazed at who is behind this door. So much more of glorious heaven. So every time they kept promising me, eternal peace and happiness and bliss in heaven, I would inch a little bit closer to the door. And I would say, okay, I think I'll stay here. But then I would see my mother again throwing herself on top of my casket, screaming, crying, Elissa, Elissa, don't leave my baby. I love you. Come back to me. And then I would inch a little bit away from the door. And, I was crying. I said, I just don't know what to do. My mom really needs me. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I hear footsteps, and God is standing right before me. I am face to face with God, our Heavenly Father, creator of the universe. And God said to me, what's the matter, my child? Why are you crying? Why are you so upset? So I said, I have to go back. My mom really needs me. And that was all I had to say to God. God said to me, I understand. And he turned to my 3 guardian angels and he said, send her back immediately. And then he said to me, but I'm sending you back with an important purpose. He said, once your soul's back in your body, you will not remember what that purpose is until the time is right. He said, because you are just much too young now to handle such a big responsibility. Being God's messenger would be too much of a responsibility for any teenager to handle. So he said, when the time is right, it will be revealed to you. And I told him that I understand. And he actually showed me something else in heaven before I went back to my life. But, it's in my book, Hope from Heaven. And I just don't want to reveal it all for the people who will be reading it because, I don't want to spoil it, ruin it for them. Like you wouldn't want to go see a movie if you knew the whole entire movie, right? So I thank God and my guardian angels. And I said to my guardian angels, I hope you're not upset with me for not choosing to stay with you in heaven. And they laughed at me. They said, no, of course not. They said, we will be watching over you your whole life. And they said, it's going to be a long life back on earth. And you're going to be doing, God's work on earth. And they said, whenever you're feeling lonely, you will feel something stroking your hair. And they said, that is going to be us comforting you. So I thanked them. I hugged God and my guardian angels. And my soul went back through that long, dark, speeding tunnel again. Just before my soul was back in my body, I saw and I heard everything going on still at the dental clinic. The dentist, he was frantic because the hygienist was still performing CPR on me. And she said, there's still no pulse. And the dentist, he was screaming, crying. He said, oh my God, don't give up. Don't give up. We have to get her back. He said, she's only 14 years old. We can't lose her. Don't give up. Don't give up. So the hygienist, I felt her doing the 3 thrusts on my chest, the 3 breaths in my mouth. And then a couple seconds later, I heard her say to the dentist, there's a pulse now. We have her back. And the dentist screamed, thank God. And I laughed to myself and I thought I did just thank God personally, So I said to the dentist, I was all still very dazed, and confused. And I said, what just happened? I was just in heaven with God. I said, what happened? And the dentist said, I bet you were. He said, I believe it. You were gone. He said, something happened with the nitrous oxide gas and you had no pulse. We almost gave up on CPR. You were gone. So he was still crying, very, very shaken up. And he said, can you forgive me? Do you forgive me? And I said, yes, I do, because I knew it was an accident. And it was really the most incredible thing that ever happened to me in my short 14 years of life, just standing before God in heaven. So I told him that I forgave him. And he told my mother, he did not tell her that he actually killed me, because I'm sure he was afraid of, losing his dental license. So he said to her, something went wrong with the nitrous oxide gas. I could not finish filling her cavity. Take her home, have her lay down. If she doesn't feel well, take her to the emergency room. And he said that to her because a couple years later on the news, my mother and I were watching on the news that a 17-year-old girl from the Bronx, she died the same way as me, having the cavity filled at the dentist. and an overdose of the nitrous oxide, and they revived her. But then when she went home, she was found dead in the morning. And then also my neighbor told me that her dentist killed himself accidentally that way. He was found in the morning in his dentist office with the gas mask on his face. So by accident, he gave himself an overdose of, laughing gas, So, yeah, and my uncle was the biggest dentist in Westchester, and he said to me, I never use nitrous oxide. That stuff kills people. I said, I know, it killed me. So, but getting back to my story, as I was told in heaven that my full purpose would not be revealed to me until the time was right, it was in bits and pieces throughout the years. I could be sitting in class in school or walking through the park with friends, and all of a sudden I would get these flashbacks of everything that went on in heaven, but it would come at me so fast. It was like electricity going through me, and it was so powerful. I would take my hands and just hold my head for a minute, until it would stop. That's how strong it was. So my teacher or friends would say to me, are you okay? And I would say that I was. But the very full last part of my purpose that was revealed to me was years later when I met my beloved boyfriend, Todd Urban. He was a famous supermodel and went on to become an LMFT, a licensed marital and family therapist in Santa Monica, California. We met, but I have to back this up a little bit. I saw a picture of Todd when he was modeling. I saw a picture of him in a magazine. I was only 16 years old. And in that one picture that I saw of him, he reminded me of the prince in Cinderella. So I declared him my Prince Charming. I said, that's my Prince Charming. We're going to be together one day. But I think I said it more maybe like as, fantasy. But my fairy tale actually did come true years later. But before we actually met, I kept having the same reoccurring dream of him. I did not know it was him until I met him 34 years later, because in the dream, he was the age that he was when I met him 34 years later, and he was 62. So when I was seeing this mature man in my reoccurring dream, I had no idea it was Todd, because I had only seen that one modeling picture of him when he was only about 24, 25 years old. So in my reoccurring dream, he is waiting to marry me at the altar. And my mother is walking me down the aisle. And when we get down to the end of the aisle, Todd puts his hand out to me. And I put my hand out to take his hand. And then I just wake up from my dream, which makes perfect sense to me now, because, we did fall in love and we're planning on, we were both separated, going to get divorced to get married, but we never actually did get married because he died suddenly. And also that reoccurring dream that I had of him, very often you dream of your twin flame years before you ever meet. So that's why I kept having that same reoccurring dream of him. So when Todd died suddenly, I had no idea that he had died, yet he came to me in a visitation dream. He held me. He told me he loves me. He will always be with me spiritually. And then as soon as I woke up, I found out he died. I was beyond shocked and devastated. I collapsed, but I said to myself, but he just came to me and he was holding me, telling me that he loves me and will always be with me. So I knew, even though he's in heaven, I knew he just left his body behind here physically, but I knew spiritually he's still alive in heaven. Your soul is eternal. And he was giving me nonstop the most incredible afterlife communication. On the morning of his memorial service was when he revealed my full purpose to me. I woke up, and when I looked out my window, straight ahead of me in the water, Now, in the 17 years that I'm living here, there has never been one swan. We only get seagulls or geese, never any swans. So when I look straight ahead out in the water, there is a pair of ethereal swans. It's not like they were sitting there waiting for me to wake up and see them waiting for me there. They had been moving gently the whole time. So what are the odds? Just as I wake up, look out the window, they're gently moving, yet straight ahead of me. I knew this is a sign from my beloved Todd. I run outside. My grass is all wet. You know, I'm in my pajamas, my house slippers. I ruined them. I don't care. I run down to the water. And I'm screaming, wait, Todd, wait. You know, I just knew it was him giving me a message. So as soon as I get down to the water, this beautiful pair of swans, as soon as they see me, they turn towards me. Their necks entwine and their bills touch, kissing. It was the most breathtakingly beautiful sight. So I run back in my house and I Googled, what does a pair of swans mean spiritually? And sure enough, it comes right up. A swan is the twin flame spirit animal, and they represent the eternal love of oneness between two beings. So I was so amazed. I knew that Todd and we didn't even know what twin flames were. We thought we were soulmates, kindred spirits. So we were twin flames, you know, all along. Our soul has been together from the moment of creation. And twin flames are one soul that was split into two bodies and share the same consciousness. They're very rare because you can have many soulmates. You only have one twin flame because it's the other half of your soul. You know, it's actually your soul, but it's split into two bodies. When you reincarnate, you know, when you're here on earth, it gets split into two bodies and shares the same consciousness. And they are sent here in their last lifetime when their soul is very advanced and sent here as light workers to raise the vibration of love and energy throughout the world. So I knew that was my full purpose, was that not only I'm God's messenger, but I'm also a twin flame to raise the vibration of love and energy throughout the world. So as soon as, you know, I knew what my full purpose was, I wrote my book, Hope from Heaven, because I said, I know that is the best way I can reach out to everybody all over the world, because it was traditionally published. So, you know, it has the worldwide distribution that I can enlighten and inspire everyone all over the world, all about God's light and love, spirituality and purpose here on earth as well as in heaven, and to comfort people that when their loved one dies, you know, your soul just leaves your body, but it's alive. You know, your soul is eternal in heaven, and our loved ones are guiding us, loving us, protecting us from heaven. True love never dies. It is endless. And I still receive incredible afterlife communication, not only from Todd, from my mother too. My mother, who I chose to come back from heaven for, she just died last year. And she just sends me the most fascinating afterlife communication too. And I always like to document as much of my afterlife communication as I can. And if you go to my YouTube channel at Elissa Hope 4524, you know, you will see some videos that I posted. One is a visit from my deceased twin flame. And you will see that my beloved twin flame Todd, he came to me as my angel. You'll see the little angel in the grass going into the water. And all these birds are circling all around the angel, picking up on all of the energy from the angel. And birds are messengers of spirit. So it's really fascinating. And two of those birds from that video, they actually stayed with me and they moved into my garage. They built a bird's nest And then on the 4th of July, they had 4 precious baby birds. And then they come back to me, every spring. So I call them my angel birds. It's just so beautiful. And then also a year after my beloved boyfriend Todd died, I received a phone call from heaven from him. I was saying out loud to him, Todd, I need you to help me get my book Hope from Heaven into the right producer or director's hands for a movie to be made out of it. And as soon as I said that, my phone rang. I did not answer it. I was in the kitchen cooking. As soon as I was done cooking, when I checked my caller ID, I was amazed. I said, Todd just called me from heaven. On my caller ID was Todd's cell phone number with the name of a famous Swedish Hollywood director, Mikael Hafstrom. So I knew that Todd was telling me that perhaps Mikael Hafstrom is the right hands to get my book Hope from Heaven into for a movie to be made out of it. So I always say, Mikael, if you're listening, contact me. But he's been in Sweden the past couple of years. So, I haven't been able to get in touch with him. But it's just so, fascinating. And I want people to know, because a lot of people, they write to me and they ask me, will I reunite with my pets in heaven? And the answer is yes, because on my beautiful daughter, Raphael's 16th birthday, Todd came to me with my childhood dog, Shag. He came to me in a visitation dream, and Todd said, look who I brought with me. Look who is here to visit you. And my childhood dog, Shag, he was so excited. He was young and healthy again, running around in circles, so happy to see me. So when I woke up, I was just so comforted and elated to know that we do reunite with our pets in heaven. And all of the royalties from my book goes into my animal rescue. And my mission is to expand a good no-kill animal shelter one day, because I'm the biggest animal lover. And I always say, when you spell dog backwards, you know what you get. So I really and truly believe that they're God's gift to the world, not just dogs, cats, and all animals. I see the beauty in all animals. Where I live, there's wildlife always roaming around. And I get all the deers and the raccoons, and there's a baby fox that comes to my back door, and I even feed it, so I'm just the biggest animal lover.
So you mentioned visitation dream. Can you describe that? What do you mean by visitation dream?
Okay. It's different when you just have a dream, but you wake up and it's like a little fuzzy, and you don't remember it like for, you don't remember it like weeks, months, years later, then that's just a dream, but not necessarily. A visitation dream is when you are truly connecting with, your loved ones in heaven, because that you remember for the rest of your life. And it's just as clear to you years later as it was when you had that visitation dream. So it's called astral projection, astral travel. And when you're dreaming, that's when like you're in the highest state of consciousness, spiritually, and you're able to connect because we're in the 3D, but you're able to connect in the 5D too and visit with, your loved ones in heaven. So it is absolutely, it's my favorite thing to do is dream, because I'm always so happy when I connect with my loved ones in heaven. So I would have to say my favorite thing to do is sleep. So I have my visitation dreams. Second favorite thing to do is eat. I love to eat.
Okay, but not everybody is able to connect with loved ones in
Right.
heaven. How are you able to do that?
Right. I'm able to do this from my near-death experience when my soul was out of my body, left my body and traveled to heaven, and I stood before God in heaven. So I came back to my life very clairvoyant, very intuitive. I came back with the photographic memory. So I always have that, just that higher elevation, that higher level of consciousness where I am able to connect with my loved ones in heaven. And also, sometimes my friends' loved ones, they come to me from heaven and they'll give me a message to relate to them, which I do. So, but for people who do not have the visitation dreams with their loved ones, I always say, though, they can still connect with them in different ways, but you really have to clear all of your negative energy. You have to be very relaxed, like meditate, and also have a very deep, close personal relationship with God. And then, because our loved ones, they want to make contact with their loved ones spiritually. And it doesn't have to be in a visitation dream. Birds are messengers of spirit. So a lot of times, you can get a bird sign. Even people will tell me cardinals come to them a lot. And also, if you turn on the radio and that special song of you and your loved one comes on, that's a sign from them. And our loved ones in heaven, they're pure energy. So they love to do things electrically. With electricity, they could like turn the lights on and off. When my Todd passed away, the night that he died, I didn't know why this was happening, but of course I knew after I found out that he died. My television, every 20 minutes, it was shutting off. It would shut off, then go back on again. And I mean, that never happened before. So they love to make contact with us, but you really have to be very spiritual, and open to it. And then they will come to you in all different ways.
Yeah, so that's called paranormal activity, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. And they like to even they'll leave feathers for you. I find feathers in the most unusual places. And also, pennies from heaven. So, I mean, I receive all of these signs all the time, and it is so comforting. And it proves that true love never dies. It is endless. And they don't want us to grieve them. They want us to be happy because, life is just a moment of eternity and you will be reunited with them for all of eternity. So they want you to live your life to the fullest extent, cherish all of your beautiful memories with them, but know that they're still with you always, always. They're just in another realm, and in another dimension. I say it's kind of like being in the same house, yet a different room.
So I understand that Todd, it was the love of your life here on this earth, and also
Yes.
is your guardian angel now.
Yes. And my eternal twin flame. We're one soul.
Okay. I was very interested with that phone call. I didn't really understand it too fully. You said that you got a phone call and then you see on your caller ID, Todd is calling. You remembered his number.
Yes.
And
Well,
then,
yeah, I was.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it turned out there was some film studio calling. Who was calling you?
No, well, this is, and I took a video of it and pictures because I document as much afterlife communication as I can. So it was just so fascinating because just before I received that phone call, I was saying to Todd, I said out loud to him, I said, Todd, I need you to help me, get my book, Hope from Heaven, into the right producer or director's hands for a movie to be made out of it. As soon as I said that, I hear my phone rings. And so I didn't answer it because, as I said, I was in the kitchen cooking. But as soon as I was done, when I checked my caller ID, that was my phone call from Todd from heaven. So on my caller ID, It's Todd's phone number with the name, because you know you have the name on the caller ID, on your call ID and the phone number. So it's Todd's phone number with the name Mikael Hafstrom, and he's a famous Swedish Hollywood director. So, I mean, 100%. I had just said to Todd, I need you to help me get my book into the right producer or director's hands, And then the phone rings and it's that phone call from heaven. So, I mean, that is just, yeah, extraordinary.
Now, you mentioned that you get afterlife communication you receive afterlife communications from heaven. Can
Yes.
you can you give us some examples? What kind of afterlife communications you
Well,
receive?
I will tell you one, the most incredible one that, I mean, I can't even really fully put it into words. It's so extraordinary. Is that 2 weeks after Todd died, I felt like I was dying of a broken heart. I literally could feel like my body shutting down. I just felt like I'm dying of a broken heart. And then I'm awakened one night. This is 2 weeks. Todd died January 15th, 2020. Exactly 2 weeks later, on February 1st, 2020, I'm awakened. I look up on my ceiling and there's this whirling mist with light in the center. It keeps whirling down more and more to me. When it's close enough to me, I see both arms extend with all this light radiating throughout both arms. And when it's close enough to me, it wraps its arms with all of that light. All of that light is being poured into me. I cannot put into words. I never felt such healing light and love and healing energy pulsating, just all being poured into me. And I mean, it went on, I would say, I don't know for how long, maybe a minute. And then it just disappeared. The whirlingness with the light disappeared. And I was 100% healed. In the morning, I jumped out of bed, 100% healed. My heart was completely healed. And I wasn't only healed from Todd dying, I was healed from anything bad I went through in my entire life. So I thought it was Todd's spirit who came and healed me, but I went to speak to a rabbi and a priest, and they both said to me, no, that could only have been God's spirit who healed you, because only God can fully heal you. So, and the priest said to me, you are fully blessed. He had tears in his eyes, and he just said that there's a reason why, why I was sent back to my life as God's messenger and light worker. And he said, nobody knows the reason why, who God chooses, who he does. And I made a joke. I'm like, I always say, if people say, why are you the chosen one? I laugh. I say, God only knows, But, I take my purpose very seriously, and I'm dedicating now the rest of my life towards helping to heal others spiritually. I always reach out to people who have lost, say, children, in the most tragic ways. And I reach out to them to try and comfort and heal them spiritually. And, one woman I will never, ever forget, she lost both of her parents and all three of her children in a horrible house fire on Christmas Eve. And, she was just so amazing, because instead of her being upset with God, she said, I thank God for the time that I was blessed here with my children. Because then I spoke to another woman who lost her beautiful 24-year-old daughter. And this woman cannot get past it. And she said, I don't believe in God anymore. And it's been 10 years since her daughter passed away. And she said, I just don't believe in God anymore. And I said, no, you have to, because it's in your darkest hour where you need God the most. And you should never turn your back on God, because God never turns his back on us. And God, he doesn't give us anything more than we can handle, although in our most suffering times we feel like he does, but he really doesn't. In the darkest hour, there's actually light, because this is the reason why we chose to come here to this earth school. It's all a part of your spiritual growth, and the only way you grow the most spiritually is when you do go through the hardest, most challenging times in your life. So, and people say to me, when does God call you back home to heaven to him? And the answer is, when you have served and completed your purpose for God, that is when he calls you back home to heaven to him.
Okay, but how can people find their purpose? Not everybody knows what to do in their lives. A lot of people are just searching, and they may never find their purpose. Do you have an advice for them?
Yes, I do. You have to have a close, personal, deep relationship with God, and you need to pray to him. If you don't know what your purpose is yet, you have to pray to him and ask him to set you upon the right path towards divine awareness, authentic power, peace, clarity, love, and purpose. Now, the answer, it may not come to you right away. I mean, it took me many years until my full purpose was revealed to me. But God knows what is the best for you and your spiritual growth. So he always will and does reveal what your purpose is and what you're meant to be doing in your life when the time is right. But every second of your life is leading you up to your purpose, so you need to just trust in God's will. My 3 guardian angels in heaven told me every second of your life is already written in the book, and once you are born, not a second of it can be changed. So just always have faith in God, trust in God's will, and your purpose, what you're meant to be doing. You're either already doing it, or you are closer towards serving that purpose.
Elissa, you mentioned God several times. What is your definition of God?
That's a very good question, Sergi. I came face to face with God in heaven. He was in human form in heaven. And he looked a lot like some of the pictures that you have seen of Jesus, but God looked older. His face was more mature, maybe 20, 25 years older. And I always say I don't want to insult God too much, So he looked a little more older than the pictures that you have seen of Jesus. And he had long, brown, wavy hair. He had a beard. He had the most beautiful brown eyes, full of so much depth and dimension to them, exceeding, time and distance and dimension. I mean, he was wearing a long white robe, and he had an embroidered gold belt on it with tassel fringes. He was wearing brown gladiator leather sandals, and he was walking. He had a cane. It was like dark mahogany embellished with gold on it. He had a very strong, powerful voice, but it was very loving at the same time, too. And that, I knew it was God immediately when he called me. He said, my child. When he said, what's the matter, my child? And we're all of God's children. So I knew it was God. But then here on earth, when God made contact with me 2 weeks after Todd died and God healed me, it was God's spirit. He was not in human form. He came to me, and it was just his spirit then, that whirling mist with the light in the center. So, but I did read that nobody on the face of this earth can see God's face, can come in contact with God in human form here on earth, but that's why his spirit made contact with me when I was back, in my body here on earth. But in heaven, I came face to face with him in human form. So that, that is God.
Okay. Now, you said that you're not religious, that you are spiritual. Do you believe in Jesus? And if you do, how do you imagine Jesus?
I 100% I do believe in Jesus because Jesus is the Son of God. So I do imagine Jesus to be like, the pictures that you have seen of him. Along the lines of that, I would think to pick, imagine him. But I mean, I did not meet Jesus in heaven, so I cannot say for sure. But just from seeing God in heaven, standing face to face with God, as I said, God resembled one picture that I did see of Jesus. But God was a lot more mature looking, his face, which I just will never forget. I came back here with a photographic memory. Don't forget, I was 14 years old when I came face to face with God in heaven. And I just turned 57 years old, but it's just like yesterday that I remember it all. That's one of the perks of dying and being sent back to your life. You have a photographic memory.
Okay, so I understand that this experience affected your life in a big way.
How could it not? Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So now my question is this: are you afraid of that?
No, I always say, been there, done that already. How can I be afraid of it when I already did die, right? So, and that's why I also wrote my book so that it comforts people. Don't be afraid, because a lot of people, they're afraid of the unknown. So, I'm living proof that heaven is just beyond beautiful. You will have eternal peace and happiness and be one with the divine and the universe. So be reunited with your loved ones and your pets in heaven. So, I mean, gosh, it's just so beautiful. I can't imagine anyone to be dying is just as natural as being born, just a different process, is what I always say.
Yeah. All right. Now, if people want to find more about you, about work you do, about your book, I understand you have a book. If you'd like to share
Yes.
that here.
Oh, sure. I'll hold up a copy. It's called If You Could See Hope from Heaven. And it was the number one new release in near death experience books on Amazon. And you can also go to my author website at elissahope.com. And there's a link on the homepage to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, so that you could order it. And I love to hear from all of my readers. There's, a contact form on the homepage. And then I also have my email address and also, my YouTube channel at Elissa Hope 4524. And I really, just hope that I'm making a difference in this world for everybody. And I always say that everyone should be humble and kind to one another, do good deeds. I try and do something nice for somebody else every single day. And if everybody did that, just think of the effect it would have in the world. It truly would make more of heaven a place on earth, to do unto others as you would do unto yourself.
Thank you for watching About Freedom Show. I really appreciate you. Click on one of the videos below and don't forget to subscribe.